It is 6:02 on Wednesday, the 6th of April. This is the Finance Committee, and I'm calling the meeting to order. Dr. McCall, I'm going to let you introduce everybody.
Great,
Please.
thank you so much, and thank you for having us here this evening. Again, Daryl McCall, Superintendent, for the next few months. I retire in September. So then over here, way over on my right, is Dr. Jim Riley, who will be the incoming superintendent. So this is his first opportunity to come to a meeting like this, where we have the opportunity to present information on the budget and take questions and so forth. So he's kind of sitting in to absorb all of this, right now. To my left is Jeff Carlson, who is Director of Human Resources. To my right is Jane Daly. Jane is the new Deputy Superintendent, who's taken over from Bob Rutland. And then I think behind us is Sherry Hoover.
And Kumara.
And Kumara, yes,
Yep.
two school committee members. So hey, thanks for coming.
Hey, you missed me.
Tommy, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I forgot you worked for the school district.
Way back when.
Way back. Okay, so would you like me to start presenting?
Yeah, we can start on page 4.
Let's jump right to page 4.
4.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll start with
Did
what?
you, I think you meant, because the page, do you mean page 4 in the presentation or this document? Oh, yeah, right.
For this.
Yeah, you see it's a big one.
I printed it off because
It's too hard to read
you
that,
guys,
yeah, yeah.
I like to write notes.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry.
That's
So
okay.
yeah, I'll jump
I'm
right.
old. I need glasses, so I have to write things.
She just wants to skip all the up front stuff.
Just go right to this. I like it. So
Get right to the meat.
under our enrollment update, so you can see October 1st, 2021, our enrollment was 6,746. Students, it's about a 2.4% increase over last year, 160 students. Our current enrollment is 6,795. And this is an increase of another 49 students from October 1. Again, the state takes the October 1 number. That's the number that they, then assign a budget to associated with Chapter 70. We then do another one later on in the school year. So again, that's down a note down below in terms of the funding calculation. If you go to district enrollment share on slide 5, you can see the highlight associated with Rutland in particular. Rutland is, in October 2020, 1,505 students. October 2021, 1,550 students. And again, the enrollment change between FY20, or excuse me, not FY, but the October 1 count for 20 versus 21 was 45 students. High school enrollment share for Rutland, there was a decrease this past year, so it went from 41 down to 453. We lost 28, there were 28 less Rutland students up at the high school than there were the year before. Yes, go ahead.
Now, does that mean that because it's gone up in population, that was all freshmen? The increase, I mean, because it went from 1,505 to 1,550, but the high school was going down by 28. Does that mean the rest of the population?
Okay, so district enrollment share. So district enrollment share includes all the K-8s as well.
Okay,
So when we're looking at that, we're looking at all
Okay.
those students.
got it, okay.
That's a good question.
Are you back to,
Where we were before?
yes.
No, we weren't. So one of the things, and Darren, that's another good question, when we're looking at the projections associated with all the communities, we have NESDEC projections that we shared with, all the town managers, select boards, FinComs. I believe you probably got it in some form or fashion a little while ago. And it kind of shows a general decline over the past several years, and we've seen that in our budget book, which just kind of shows the decline. What they're projecting is that we're actually going to have an enrollment increase over the next several years.
Okay.
So probably within the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to be back up in the 7,003, 7,004, 7,500 range.
Okay.
Would be my kind of estimation. NESDEC, 10-year, their 10-year projections are usually right on target. Their 2, 5, 6-year projections are usually pretty off because it's not based on but their 10-year projections are actually really very good.
Perfect.
So,
Thank you.
So there will be increases across the board. Per pupil spending, again, this is just a slide that kind of shows where we are in reference to state average and rank and so forth from 2018, 2019, and 2020. And if we jump into the FY23 budget, I'll jump right to slide 10. I'll give you a quick overview of the staffing update. Currently, we have 1,046 total FTEs, full-time employees. 537 of those FTEs are teachers, almost half. This year, we were able to restore a couple of positions. We had a middle school French teaching position as well as a middle school strings teacher. We were able to restore that had been previously cut.
What's the 537 WREA?
Those are the teachers.
Those are just the teachers.
Yep, so WREA is the Wachusett Regional Educational Association.
I just want to make, so 1,046 total employees, of which 537 of them are teachers.
Yes,
Okay, just want to make sure that we get that squared away for anybody who's watching.
yep, good question.
And the middle school teachers were in what towns? I'm just curious.
Strings.
Strings
everywhere.
is district-wide,
Yeah.
the French was
Mountview.
Mountview.
Okay.
Is strings music?
Yes.
Okay.
Viola, violin.
Yeah, all right,
cello.
just, I didn't know if it was a special name for something else, I'm sorry.
No. Yeah, no, that's a good question.
A lot of times we're used to those little dinky violins, but
Yeah, you know, the
Especially
little-
in this
We're
room.
just here to
Yeah,
play
a
that.
little playing,
Yeah, Darren, you probably said that to me.
I was educated in the Wachusett Regional School District, so you be careful. I don't think you can say that,
No,
so
I
you be
can't. I
careful.
can't. My kids, yes. Everyone else,
There's
no.
a few of
Okay.
us in this room.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah. Under new staff for FY22, again, this is this past year, for elementary teachers, we were able to add our elementary counselors, and those were split between all of our elementary schools, so it's a 0.5 position in each school. We have a nurse leader, which we're in desperate need of, and has been very beneficial to us as we have gone through the pandemic. An assistant business manager was added this year because, again, it's a $110 million program, and we really need more support down there. And then a BCBA, which is a board certified behavioral analyst, and again, that's a person that assists us with ABA programs, applied behavioral analysts, support for special education, really.
So are they all on board?
Yeah, those are all ones that we have
Last
on board this year. Yep, they're all in the budget. And then we also added building subs this year. As you know, there was a major sub shortage everywhere in the nation. We had to actually hire subs to be in the building full time in order to have proper coverage. Ted, you can probably kind of vouch for having, there were many times when people would have COVID, they couldn't be in school, whatever it was, and we needed that support. So that was very helpful for us this past year.
It's still tough.
It's still tough, and I think it's going to continue to be tough. So we have a budget overview, slide 11, slide 12. Those are our budget drivers, and our budget drivers are really comprised of our salaries and stipends, our insurance and benefits, and that includes our health insurance, which we're looking at about a 9% increase this year, Medicare, Worcester County retirement, which is a 9.4% increase, which we weren't, happy about, workman's comp. We also have heating oil, heating fuel, so we've all seen that increase dramatically over the past several months. That's a 70% increase right now. Gosh, we are paying $2.67 a gallon. I think that's what we had locked into for this school year, or $2.69 a gallon. And then we have transportation contracts and special ed tuitions. Those are our big budget drivers pretty much every school year. Slide 13, we'll show this slide twice. It's the budget breakdown by appropriation. Each appropriation is broken down into there's a column for FY22, FY23 proposed, the difference in terms of a dollar amount, and then the difference in terms of a percentage. And as you can see, when you get down to the bottom, the increase is $4,533,102, or a 4.34% increase.
Transportation went up quite a bit.
Yes, it did. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Those are all contract based. Salaries and benefits, we'll start there. That's slide 15. So we're, increasing about $2 million, and those are really contractual obligations and negotiations. So looking at about a $2 million increase, or a 3% overall increase between 22 and 23.
Any new,
There are no new employees associated with
Okay.
this current budget. So, now, that does not mean that in August, we have 15 families move into Rutland and we have 10 new first graders. We might have to put a teacher in somehow, some way. So yes, there's always that possibility of flexibility, but there's nothing in the budget right now based upon our numbers.
okay.
Benefits and insurance. Health insurance has increased by 9% in Worcester County, by 9.4. Originally, our health insurance had started off in the very high teens, and we were able to get it down to 9%. So the overall increase is about $1.2 million. And then total for salaries and benefits on slide 17, it's $3.2 million, or a little under 4%, 3.82. Under instruction and operations on slide 19, that's where we have basically we flatlined that budget. But what's great is that we still have the capacity to purchase our textbooks that we need, our technology. We are 1-to-1, grades 6 through 12 for our Chromebooks. And we are basically on a 2-to-1 ratio right now for our elementary schools. So what we're doing is we're recycling some of the older ones back into the elementary schools. We're buying new Chromebook carts for those schools as well. But again, we're not putting a Chromebook into every first grader's hand, but they have access to them when needed. And let's see, operations and maintenance. We're looking at an increase of about $855,000 just in our heating fuel, and then about a 70%, which is about a 70% increase, the $379,528. So that difference is 11.48% increase in terms of the overall operations and maintenance. Pupil services, that's a kind of a flat line. Again, that's basically to fund the health offices. We have been able to use grant funds over the past couple years to help support that, so that's why we've been able to flatline that as well. Special ed tuitions, that's going up by about $355,000, and that's basically projections associated with out-of-district tuitions. And again, one thing to remember is these tuition prices happen this year, but then there's a reimbursement that occurs the following year associated with circuit breaker. So we continue to monitor that very closely, associated with any students going out of district. So our total for instruction and operations is $683,541, or a 7.14% increase. Under fixed costs, again, that's a decrease of about $225,000, and that's based upon the House 1 budget for FY23, and that's really school choice and charter school tuition out charges. Transportation, so this is, again, an increase, and this is what you mentioned. When we're talking about the increase, it's based upon a 2-year option associated with our existing contract with AA Transportation. And we're also looking at our special ed in-district and out-of-district transportation, projecting out an increase of about 3%. Debt service, our 2 high school bonds, Jefferson Oil Remediation bond, they have been refinanced. So again, that continues to slowly decline. So this is a decrease of about 1%.
How much more in the Jefferson Oil?
You'd have to ask me. I'd have to go back through. That's a good question. We'll get it back to you.
Okay.
It's not that long.
Okay.
Just like the high school. Then total fixed costs, it's an increase of $624,533, or a little under 6% over FY22. So total expenditures, down below, just real quick, salaries and benefits, instruction and operations and fixed costs, that increase is 4.34%. On slide 31, we have a pie chart showing budget breakdown by category. So you can see the largest costs. Those are our salaries and benefits people, 80.4%. We then have instruction and operations. That's 9.4%, and that's all the stuff that we buy and we use and that we basically have to help kids learn. And then fixed costs, that's basically 10.2%. And then again, this is, slide 32 is the same slide that I had shared earlier, showing all the appropriations. Now, under revenues on slide 34, so state revenues right now, we're looking at an increase of close to 9% over FY 21 over FY 22 for FY 23. It's an increase of $2.673 million. And again, a lot of that's due to the fact that we had an increase in our student population this year. Charter school reimbursement, that's been an increase by $76,000. Regional transportation, right now it's showing a decrease of $7,500 from FY22. If I were a betting person, I would say that that's probably going to increase. I would assume we're going to see more money from regional transportation. We have Senator Goby next door right now, who's a strong advocate of regional transportation and ensuring that all regional school districts have the opportunity to be as funded as closely to that 100% as possible. On slide 35, member town input. Again, we had our budget roundtable in December. 4 of the 5 towns, Rutland being one of them, requested no more than a 2.5% increase for the total town of all the town assessments. And total municipal assessment requested would be around $72 million, $72,851,901. Again, with this level of requests, that's why when we're talking about our just level services, that's what this budget does. We're not adding more people, we're not adding more stuff. It's all right there. And when you go to slide 36.
So, John.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Before you leave that caught my eye.
Yeah.
You're saying that you can deliver the same level of services year over year with a 4-point-something% increase, right?
Yep. Right now. Yep.
Is that? I mean, by reading this, I'm not sure that I get that as the goal. That leveling services is the goal. I mean, when we try and do the budget, we're trying to level fund, which means that services decrease. So, is your goal to manage and maintain the same level of services?
1,000%.
Okay.
Or and again, when we're looking at the services that we render through the district for whatever it might be, classroom teachers, paraprofessionals, custodial, anything.
Right.
We have made reductions through the years in many different, as every municipality has as well. And we're at that point right now where, with the number of students we have, with the number of staff that we have, we're at a really good place. As we see an increase in students, though, we will start to see probably an increase in what we might require. Some of what happens when we're looking at something like this, and we've talked about this just in general, the state is, again, always, it's basically a % a year that's being put back on the municipalities, and then they're no longer paying. So when I really think about this, holistically, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, the state's pushing back and saying we're going to hold on to more of our tax revenue. We're going to look for the local municipalities to really pitch in more every single year, which leaves us, school districts and towns, kind of in a bind across the board, because we can never look at something and say, how can we make something better? Yes, we still look at level funding. For us, level funding would mean major reductions in staffing primarily, because again, that's over 80% of our budget.
It's not something that we haven't seen in town.
Right.
But I guess the concern that I have is just the perspective in developing budget. If the perspective is that if the towns are having issues just maintaining level funding, then the goal for the school shouldn't be to increase services. It should be to maintain services. Just my thought.
Oh, and that's what this is.
Right, and I understand that.
Right.
But again, in the past, it hasn't. In the past, it's been the situation where there's been the need to increase. And I understand what you're saying about the state taking money away.
Yep.
But on the other hand, the state isn't giving us the opportunity to be able to go in and increase taxes without going to the town and asking for 2.5% override.
Yep.
That doesn't happen.
Right.
And when it doesn't happen, it means that the money is going to the schools and nothing's going to the town. I don't think anybody would begrudge the schools the right amount of money to keep things going as they are. It's just that when this little bullet becomes well, we have to increase. And again, increasing population is one thing, but just the percentage increase would
Right.
be the issue.
And
That's
again,
all.
what, in your point, I totally hear your point. Again, I have to come at it from the vantage point of being the educational leader of the district and saying, okay, what is necessary in order to ensure that we're giving our kids and our staff what they need to learn
Right,
on a comparative basis, even to other districts around us.
right.
And that's really what it comes down to. The increases that we incur, something like health insurance. I mean, health insurance is, and that's
You don't have to
exactly,
tell us.
we're living it,
Yeah,
right?
we
We all
know the
live
same
it.
thing.
So that becomes something that we're constantly dealing with, which is why, well, if we don't get that much more money from the state every year and our health insurance goes up too much, then that level service becomes not even attainable for us at that time.
Right.
So, and again, I wouldn't continue to say, if our numbers don't go up, we're gonna continue to just kind of do what we're doing, but we're in a good place right now in terms of the support that the towns have given us over the past several years.
Mhm.
So that's been very beneficial. The grant funds that we've been able to get, the ESSER 1, 2, 3 grants, again, those have helped us with technology, so that we've been able to jumpstart technology in a way that didn't have to get rolled into the overall budget in the same way.
Mhm.
Those are the types of things ultimately that kind of, levels the playing field. And we're also talking about trying to have more continuity and consistency across all the 5 towns.
It's
with
just
everything.
a word of caution.
Yep.
That, as much as anything we see looking out, it doesn't look like we're gonna be rolling in money anytime soon,
Exactly.
so.
Exactly. And again, what we're attempting to do is be as fiscally responsible as possible.
Okay.
This year, moving forward into next year,
Right,
ensuring that, and I'll talk about this a little bit moving forward, but, offsets that we use this year, how are we going to be able to then replicate those types of offsets next year
okay,
so that we can lower that overall dollar amount?
okay, thank you.
Slide 36, town assessments. So again, you can see all of the town assessments, Holden, Paxton, Princeton, Rutland, Sterling. Rutland is 3.1%, or $422,764.
Before you
Yeah,
get off
sure.
of that, Rutland's total, does the district have a breakdown of what's contributing to that? Now, I don't mean salaries and oil and all that stuff. I mean, the 3 schools in town, the high school, and then the administration. How much, and again, this is more of a curiosity, I'm not saying it needs to be done, but how much of that breakdown is represented in that 14.1 million? Does it make any sense? Do they make any sense at all?
It's based upon this, Peter, it's based on this right here.
The
That's our
percentages,
enrollment share?
right,
Yeah.
right.
So we, out of the total budget, we get 2.99%.
And I understand that,
Okay.
but this is the sum total of,
So here's the other thing. If you pull this, does everyone have a copy of
Yeah.
this? So if you look at the kind of the assessments, and you go to that top minimum local contribution
Mhm.
part, and you look way over on the right, under proposed house, so it says difference, that $452,026
yeah,
for Rutland, 5.89%. So right off the bat, the state's saying, hey, you know what? Rutland can pay this much more money next year.
nice of them.
No, so so MLC is already there at a rate that's higher than what it's going to be here.
Again, it was just a curiosity.
What that-
It was more of a, I know that the total Rutland cost is going to be 14.1. I know that we've got the 3 schools in town.
Yep.
There's a certain cost associated with that, and
Right.
and the teachers in that. There's also the high school, there's a portion of that we need to bear.
Yep.
And there's a portion of the administration, the district administration, that we have to bear. I was just curious as to if you had some breakdown like that. I'm a big metrics guy, so
Yeah.
just looking at
So,
that.
so Karen was saying it's based upon the overall population in terms of Rutland's population percentage. associated with the students in the school. Like, here's your overall dollar amount, whatever it is that we're
Right.
taking, so here's that percentage, it's divvied up, and then, okay, Rutland owes altogether $14 million.
Right,
Holden owes this much because they're 50%
correct,
of the district, basically.
right.
So it comes down to that.
But Glenwood has got a certain dollar amount associated with
Okay, so I see what you're saying. So, so here's what I'm gonna tell you. Some schools are gonna cost more money than other schools.
And that's
The
okay.
And here's why, because you're gonna have some schools that have more senior staff.
Yeah.
Who are, top, step 14, and they've been there for 25 years.
Right.
Whereas you might have other schools that have had a lot of turnover, a lot of newer teachers, so their overall dollar amount in terms of, the teacher salaries or paraprofessionals, whatever it might be lower. So each school costs a little different, but it's all,
Oh, and I know it's all,
Lumped in.
yeah, I know
Yeah.
it's all aggregated and it's distributed based upon, population. I'm just thinking that having that, data would probably lead us to questions as we go down the road.
Yep.
And all of a sudden we find out that because we do have new people coming in, some of the folks retiring, that we could expect maybe a drop or a change or something along those lines.
It's just a percentage of the total, though.
It's a
It
total,
doesn't
right.
matter what happens at Glenwood.
right.
It's a percentage of the total, unfortunately.
And I understand.
I understand where you're going with it, but it doesn't matter, because you're not gonna divide Glenwood out and,
Well, that's why I'm asking the question. That's what I'm asking.
Right.
Does Glenwood have a ledger that is its
oh, I see
expenses?
you.
So they could tell us that.
In the
Budget
budget
book.
book, the budget book you can go through.
Okay.
It's not specific, it's not built like that. You've got, the budget book is just total, so you have to go through and highlight.
But you can find,
Okay.
here's
All right.
Glenwood,
Okay.
here's
Yeah.
Newport,
That's fine.
here's Central Tree.
Okay,
Yes, yeah.
that's what I was
Yeah.
looking for. Thank
Yep,
you.
no, that's a good question.
I understand now, I'm sorry, yeah.
No,
So under state and local revenues on slide 37, we have chapter 70 aid, and that's what I just talked about. We had the increase associated with 160 students. Chapter 71 transportation, again, I expect that to go up a little bit. Chapter 70 charter aid, that was increased as well. So total state aid is $2.7 million, or an 8.6% increase over last year. We also have Medicaid that we plan on putting in about $625,000 into. Interest, $50,000. Miscellaneous revenue, and those are revenues that we get from other towns for students out of district and so forth. And then also adding $850,000 out of our excess and deficiency to the overall local revenues, so that we're putting in $1.75 million toward local revenues this coming fiscal year.
Since you mentioned E&D, what
Yeah.
is the balance at this point?
Off the top of my head, I think it's like 1.4 right now, Karen. I'll double check with Dan, but I think that's where, I think we were just certified at that. I'll get the exact number for you.
And so, that being said, why didn't we level fund the E&D amount?
Why don't we just use all of it
No, why didn't we level fund it?
at $950?
Yeah.
Because one of the things we want to do is ensure that we have enough funds moving forward. So here's some of the, we're looking at the projections for the future.
Mm-hmm.
So as we kind of look at FY '24 and '25, E&D has been a critical dollar amount that we've always kind of tapped into for the most part
Mhm.
to assist us in, with the local revenue side.
Mhm.
So we want to be careful and cautious about that when possible. And again, I think as we kind of go through this, school committee is, and if you want to jump in, but we had some discussions around E&D, and we do want to ensure that we have a certain amount in there, so that we have some type of backup funding if
Do
there
you
are
base it on a
emergencies.
percentage at the school, like we do for some of our reserve money? You guys base it on a certain percentage, or do you guys just,
No, we
Define
can't
it.
go higher than 5%. Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
but it's 5%?
yeah. We can't go higher. But
That's all.
again,
That's all.
we're not even close to that.
Okay.
Then total revenues for the towns, or total revenues just in general, we have the towns, state aid and local revenues, $4.5 million, 4.34%. We also have budget offsets, and that's one of the things we started to talk a little earlier about. So these are offsets that we're projecting to use for FY '23. So circuit breaker, for example, I talked about the special ed tuitions. Circuit breaker is the money that we get back the following year. It's a percentage of the dollar amount spent on students who go out of district for their tuitions. So again, right now, we're projecting that we'll be able to use $4.4 million from circuit breaker to offset the budget. IDEA 240 grant, that's another special education grant. We're gonna use all of that moving forward. ECC revolving, that's based upon tuitions at our early childhood center. We're going to be using 75 of that. School choice money is the money that we receive for students who come into the district for school choice. We've not participated in school choice for several years now, but we still have students. Once you're a school choice student, you can stay here forever, until you graduate. So we still have students who are in 7th, 8th, 9th grade, the high school, who got in. So again, this number continues to decrease as our school choice numbers go down. And one thing I do want you to note is on that third column, FY projected remaining balance, what we're looking at is being able to ensure that we're holding on to some funds so that we're not going to be in a pickle next year where we don't have enough money for our offsets for FY24. So we're trying to just balance this out a little bit more than we have in the past. School lunch, $100,000 we've reduced there. And then transportation stabilization, we did have money left over in our transportation stabilization account that has to be used. It can't be carried over any further, so that will be used here. There could be some money left over at the end of this year, which would then roll into another transportation stabilization and go right back into this, and it would show under the FY23 projected remaining balance. Budget calendar, again, we have our budget meetings, our governor's budget, annual budget hearing. This is our last meeting with town officials. School committee approved the budget on March 7th. And then we have our town meetings coming up in Holden, Paxton, Princeton, Rutland, and Sterling, 16th, 2nd, 10th, 7th, and 2nd. And then Paxton and Sterling are on the same night. It's always fun to try to be in two places at one time.
You had mentioned ESSER funds. Is that those are the federal money?
Yes, they are.
And is that the only federal money you guys got this year?
No, so federal, we get federal grants, so like the IDEA grant, that's
I'm thinking more of the ESSER's more of a COVID relief.
That's
right.
right. Those are the funds that we got.
All right.
So it's
And
ESSER 3 was the big one.
ESSER 3, and that's the one that. All right. So I guess where I'm going with this is how I'm leading up into this. You guys got how much of that this year did you guys get?
Yeah.
I have to look.
But
It's multi-year.
It's a multi-year.
It's over
Right.
5 years. Is it like the ones that the town gets?
It's September 24. Yeah.
Okay.
I think, or December
So I guess
24.
where I'm leading to is you guys aren't. I'm not saying we shouldn't spend it. Spend every penny of it if it's coming from the government. We're all paying anyways.
That's
But
right.
where I'm going with is it are you funding staff or are you funding? Good. I like the way your eyes are
No way.
bulging. Do not fund staff.
No,
with
we're
it,
not funding
please.
staff with that. And
Okay.
We would never do that.
All right, and it's things that are like the Chromebooks and things like that
Yes.
were one-time items. And that's you guys are on that. Oh, so where I'm going with that, if you guys are doing that, I'm appreciative of that because what our fear is that we bail ourselves out of this year, and then next year
Exactly.
whatever we use for ESSER funds this year. Would you say how many was it? 900,000 or something this year?
I'll have to look.
I mean, Jane can find it, but like,
Yeah.
so,
I guess where I'm going is as long as you guys are doing that, I'm good with it.
yeah, we're not. One of the things that we were concerned about, and this is something that I've lived with because we had, and I'm trying to, the ERA funds that were from 2008. A lot of school districts took those funds and they put them into salaries for staff, and then once the ERA funds dried up, which was just a few years, they didn't have the money for the staff. People had to be pink slipped, and it was a big mess everywhere in the education world. Some places have a lot more money than we do. So let's for example, Worcester. Worcester is using their ESSER money, and they're putting it directly into staff because they had millions and millions and millions of dollars. Most places aren't doing that. A lot of places aren't even using their ESSER money yet, like ESSER 1, ESSER 2. They're not even like a lot of places haven't even gotten into ESSER 2 yet. We've used ESSER 1 and ESSER 2. Tech, a lot of what we used also was helping our infrastructure, our HVAC systems, really getting those set and established.
So the amount is $1,365,773.
That's the
Okay.
ESSER three.
That's
ESSER
ESSER
three.
three.
Yeah.
And again, we've budgeted for multiple years and things that it's nothing that will, once it ends, will have to be picked up in the budget. For example, there's money in there for COVID supplies and PPE. There's money in there, like you mentioned, for Chromebooks. There's money in there for after-school and extended learning programs for students because of learning loss because of COVID. And those are going on now at Naquag and Glenwood after school. But those aren't things that I would hope will have to continue into the future. This is just to close this gap for kids because what was caused
yeah.
because
Yeah.
of
And I
COVID. So
agree
those
with-
are the uses of.
I agree with
funds.
you, and I think it's a scary precedent when maybe the city of Worcester can afford it, and maybe they'll find it somewhere else.
Yeah.
But I don't know that we can absorb that in our district, because once you do that,
Right.
then we're and everyone, so it's like free cash around here. We, at our level, we do, if we spend free cash on a salary or whatever, then the next year it bites us again, right?
Oh,
It
exactly,
keeps biting
right.
and biting and biting.
Right.
So I applaud you guys for at least using, I guess, don't take it the wrong way, but common sense and doing it the right way the first time, so we don't have to deal with it next year, because we understand that health insurance and everything are gonna go up, and unfortunately, it's crazy numbers, but at least it's something that next year we're not gonna get hit with that extra again, that's all.
Yeah, no, and you make a really good point, Darren, and I think ultimately, we just want to ensure that, again, we could tap into ESSER three right now, but because we have the opportunity to use it over multiple years, we really want to spread it out so that we're, like you said, we don't want to be in a position where we're setting ourselves up for a fiscal
And
deficit.
goodness, like, God forbid, right, if COVID comes back or there becomes an issue again, we have the money there, so
Right.
like, we won't be stuck.
And we won't be pulling it out of the general budget.
No, it's, but I don't have a problem with the way you guys are doing it, I just wanted to, just ask the question, that's all.
So, good question.
So I see an increased total of 4.34% overall, but we had an increase in revenue from the state of 8.98%. So the concern that I have is, this increase, is it going to stay? Or next year are we gonna get bit because this 2.673 increase in chapter 70 is gonna drop? And then we're gonna be right back where we've been in the past, where it's, you know, you said it's level service, but you had a huge increase. That's a huge increase in revenue. We didn't get that in town.
Oh, from the state,
Yeah,
right. Well, we had a huge decrease in revenue the year before that.
you had a large one, yes.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
it was very large. So
Mhm.
I think that's one of the reasons why, again, this increase came back up. This will be maintained or increased because our number of students will go up, but it's not going to go up to that same extent.
Okay.
We know that. We are hopeful that the transportation funds continue to increase. We also
My
know.
parents have been hopeful for that since I was in kindergarten. And let me
I
tell
know,
you,
it
that was a
hasn't
lot
happened.
of years ago, so
Well,
stop hoping.
So the reimbursement. So I can tell you, last year the reimbursement rate was 90%, and they're projecting, and again, this is Ann and Kim talking, about this a little bit,
Sure.
but they're very hopeful that the 90% is going to stick this year. The state's sitting on an awful lot of money right now, billions of dollars.
Mhm.
They're not going to sit on all of it, so it's going to come out in bits and pieces. They're just not. They haven't made those decisions yet as to how it's coming out and where it's coming out from. But Karen, trust me, I hear you 100%.
Yeah,
I am concerned about what happens in FY24, FY25, and that's one of the
Right.
reasons why when we talk about these things like excess and deficiency,
Mhm.
I want to ensure that there's enough excess and deficiency so that if we do have a year where there's a lull and we have this huge increase in whatever it might be, health insurance,
Mhm.
that we're able to hopefully cover some of that gap in terms of the assessments, so that I'm not coming, or well, I won't be, but fortunately Jim would be, coming to the town saying, hey, I've got a 7% increase that I've got to throw your way, and that's
Or 9.
yeah, or right, 9, right.
I don't think we've had
Well, I
7
think
in
the
a
message
while.
is don't.
Okay, so we're expecting, so now, when you talk about transportation funding going up from where you had it, so this would be where the transportation stabilization comes in, where the money goes into this side little kitty that you guys get to hand to us whenever you want. Kinda, sorta.
Well, here's what would happen. It would probably go into, it would go, but it wouldn't be hand queued. Whatever. With those funds, those become those funds that we then use as offsets for the overall budget.
But you said we got 200,000, but there could be some left over
If there
from
could,
this year.
from the increase,
I
yes.
mean,
Yep.
that's the thing. I just want to make sure that we see these funds, because I know with Bay Path,
Yep.
we get a check.
Yep. Yeah.
With you guys, we get a stabilization that kind of isn't as easy to track. Let me put it that way.
Stabilization.
The transportation stabilization,
Fund,
yeah.
which is right, which
Right.
is the account that we've established.
Right. It's not as easy to track. So that was the thing. So
Not as visible?
it was not as visible. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was the thing, because we got $200,000 in this year that we've got, and how many years ago was from that? Was that from last year? Was
Last
that
year.
so that's
Yeah.
that's the full amount that
We
you had.
always,
Right
you
over.
always have
Full
to
amount.
expend that amount. It can only carry over for 1 year.
So then
it has
how
to be
could there be
expended.
potentially some from this year that will be brought into next year?
Because so that was the money that was carried over from last year. You can only carry over that 200,000 for 1 year. You see what I'm saying? But you still had the money for FY22. That wasn't FY22 money. That was
Oh, that's
FY21.
right.
So then it
Okay,
has to
so
be
it's
expended.
okay.
Good question.
So you can, your E&D fund, you would said you can go to 5% of your total budget, right? Okay,
By law. Yeah.
and what are you guys at now?
About
what percentage?
1.4, or about 1.4 million.
1.4 million, but what
Yeah.
percentage is that, so it's 1%?
It's a little over 1%.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So
He was
Gotta
trying to
ask
get
the
his
other-
Wachusett math to kick in over.
I just want to make sure that
Man.
we are all on the same page. So there's no new teachers, no new staff. So now the worst case scenario happens. We have this huge increase of people that come in after how are you going to fund those?
Very carefully.
Ha ha ha.
Yeah, you know what? And again, I think part of that comes down to looking at if we have to make some modifications between appropriations. So getting the approval of the school committee. If we had to take something out of O&M or whatever, wherever it might be, in order to make that necessary. But again, it's really dependent upon if we had an influx of people moving in.
Mhm.
And again, you never know. I mean, I was at NAQUAG one year, and we had
Mhm.
I'd add a couple of second grade teachers because we had 30 or 40, and it just happened to hit one grade.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that was during the boom times, but
Right.
there are a lot of houses being built around here right now. So
Really?
yeah, just
I haven't
I've
noticed that.
Yep, I've
Haven't
noticed
noticed that.
there are a few in Holden, a few in Rutland. So, and again, that's always in the back of my mind, just in terms of the concern associated with just the unknown. Not all families register their students. Not all families register their kindergarten students.
Mhm.
So there are surprises that usually occur.
Sure.
in
But
August.
it wouldn't affect if you had kids coming back from the COVID slowdown, that number wouldn't be affected by that because we already have that, right? It would be new people.
Anyone that's new, right? So if we had a student that left during COVID and said, "Okay, you know what, I'm gonna home," the parent decided to homeschool a couple of kids.
Right.
They probably came back this year.
If
If they decide to come back next year, we're not counting those kids right now. They're nowhere in our numbers because they're homeschool kids.
Right.
If they've told us now that they're coming back,
They're
they're
coming.
in our numbers. We've already counted them. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So we do that with all of them. So any student that's a homeschool student, you're going to stay homeschooled, or you're going to come to school. And we have a lot
So
of
an
families.
increased population in any segment of the schools, with K through 8 or wherever, could affect
It
you
can-
guys.
It can, and here's where it happens. It happens when you have 28 kids in a 6th grade or a 5th grade class or a 4th grade class, and you only have one 4th grade class, like at Paxton or Thomas Prince. No, you don't. You have 2, but like
Right.
you
okay.
you have those kids move into that grade level.
Yeah.
What we typically find is that they're spread out. So you don't have.
It's squeezing one or two in each class
Exactly.
versus
So you
28 all
you
in
can
one.
do that. But so yes, we could see an increase of another 100 students across the district, but we're probably going to be able to absorb them because our class sizes are okay most places.
Unless it
And
was concentrated in one spot.
You got it. You got it.
You know, the biggest area where it typically also happens kindergarten.
Kindergarten,
Because
yes.
We have projections from NESDEC of how many kids are coming into kindergarten,
But
so
you
we
don't know
plan
yet.
for so many classrooms. But then sometimes we get surprised, and that's
Sure.
where you actually typically will see, you know, we might have to add a teacher.
Right.
But sometimes we also have to not, you know, we don't even hire a teacher in another school because they didn't get as many as.
Right.
So I need you to do me a favor.
Yes.
Because this comes up every year at the town meeting, I want to be able to send people to this recording. Could you please explain why we have so many buses that are empty? Could you please explain to the people who may be watching
To the camera?
this
Yes.
why we
Okay.
have to have all these buses, please?
So our buses, the 48 buses, are based upon the number of students at our high school that we have to provide transportation for. We
Every
have to.
student has to
Every-
have a seat, whether their parents drive them every day or not.
You got it.
Just want to make sure that it's
You
clear
got
cut.
it.
Every year at town meeting, this comes up about all the empty buses, and I
Yep.
want to be able to refer them to today's to watch it coming from your mouth.
I have a FinCom member in another town. She has asked me the same question. I see those kids driving. I see those buses going up to the high school every morning, and there are like 5 kids on there. And yeah, there are 5 kids, but it is meant to hold 60 kids.
Yep.
And ultimately,
I get
if
it.
we had to have 60 kids in the bus, we could.
Yep.
And again, that's not all buses are full in different places. Then we have other ones based upon routes that are very full.
And
So-
that's a mandated thing?
yeah. So that's regional transportation. It's part of a district.
That's, so we
be able
have
do
to
that.
do that?
Yep.
That's
Yep.
that's a law or something that says that?
Yeah, we
Okay.
have to offer the regional
Yeah,
transportation.
but couldn't route schedules assist that? I mean, maybe starting a little bit earlier on the bus routes, that they pick up more students. They don't.
But the problem
Bed,
is,
Sterling and Princeton.
the problem comes in where it's not that there aren't kids that are there. What it is
Kids are
parents are driving their kids to. If you've ever been at any one of the schools
Yeah.
around push-in time or
Up here on
takeout time,
122, yeah.
they're it's like they're giving away free money.
But the
Yeah.
issue is it's not all high school kids, because
Right.
some of those schools buses are very, very
Full.
full.
Right,
In
exactly.
the elementary.
I agree.
Right.
And you can't save any money by not running them just for the
Precisely.
high school
Yeah.
as.
Right.
I'm
So you
sure
have
if
no
they could,
choice.
I'm sure if they could avoid the 1,000 to 1,500 cars in front of that school down there.
I
and
just
hold
this
them every
happens
morning,
every single
they
year.
would,
we
they
come
would
up with
love
this.
to get rid of that mess.
And I can tell you, we work with the bus company every single year over the summer on all the routes in the district. And Rutland this year has been a little bit of a challenge because of some of the dirt roads and some of the challenges that we had. I think in the fall. Was
Wet
it?
mud.
Is it-
Yeah,
was it
those
Brittenell? Which
ruts
one
that
was
you
it?
left on my road.
Sassawana.
Your road that was,
Sassawana.
you
The
need to shut
Sassawana.
your road
Sassawana
down.
was
That
bad,
it, I
Brittenell was
remember.
bad. There was a
Emerald
couple
was
of-
bad.
Yeah.
The road that I live on, but that's they said that was on purpose. But
Well, yeah, yeah.
joking. Come on.
Oh,
So
yeah.
in any case, but
Look at that, a tree just fell down.
so in any case, the what we do is we really work with them around where the different routes are going. And what happens is that we have different places, like Emerald Road, for example, the road that I live on. There were no kids on my road. There are now like 5 or 6 new houses. So now a bus has to go up that road or down that road. So it adds to so we're doing everything in our power to keep at this number. We've also, like some of our buses are the extended buses. So they're the larger buses. They're, I think, the 84 passenger buses. So we can put more kids on there because we're trying not to add more routes. So we pay a little bit more for another bus. I mean, for a longer bus. In some of our routes, we can't even, like, in some of our town, like, okay, so down by, oh God, I'm trying to think of the name of it's right next to my house, the pond, down
Turkey Hill?
Turkey Hill. So thank you. So some of the roads down there, we can't get buses down, so we have to send, not Turkey Hill,
Cool Sandy.
Cool Sandy. Oh,
Yeah,
God.
that's tricky.
Yeah, okay, so Cool Sandy, we can't get buses down. So there are places where we have to use vans and we're paying for vans on top of buses as well, because, you know, we have to pick the kids up, so. But there are a couple places, Sterling has a place like that as
If
well.
those kids wanna go swimming at the beach, they'd make it right down to the end, no problem.
It's easy, oh, I know,
I know.
but that's not a problem.
That's not a problem.
I know, but some of the places, it is a little more challenging, to do that. Bushy Lane has always been an issue. That's-
The
that's
new
what it is.
superintendent will find it a challenge
know.
to come to his work every morning.
He signed
When
on the
he's-
dotted line, right?
I tell you, this is.
When he decides to come,
Exactly.
he will
That's
put-
why I was asking
he
before
will
we really
learn
started.
to plan his route coming into the district.
Yes.
Very shortly in this, you know, it's all well and good all summer long, and then that first day, and then the first day there's 3 snowflakes come, and then when you're stopping at you know, this year it made the best ever. I stopped at Nancy Driver right by Honey Farms.
Yeah.
The traffic for Wachusett was right there,
Oh, yeah,
and I'm like,
You
I
gotta
have
be kidding.
never seen. It's usually 68,
Right.
maybe by the Trap Rock, but it made it to Honey Farms this year, and
yeah.
I'm like 3 miles away, and we
Yeah.
are dead stopped.
Now, you know, some of that, and because I've done this, some of that still goes back to the light.
Oh yeah.
It's not even the light
It-
by the
no,
fire
it's-
station, it's by the, it's
Well,
the light
you
in the
get a
center
little
of
bit of
Holden.
help at the. You go by the high school and you get a little help till you stop again.
Yeah, it just,
Right.
it's immediate.
Yeah, it's
I know,
craziness.
I know.
But
That's how it's gonna be.
I mean, yeah. I can't even imagine 30 or 40 years ago, as many parents driving kids to school.
That's
Mike?
when horse and carriages, it was easy.
No, it wasn't horse and carriages. I just didn't get a ride to the bus stop.
No,
And
well,
if my hair wasn't dry, it was frozen when I was standing in front.
The
Right?
bus
They didn't
sto-
care.
The bus
It
stops
was
were
no.
further apart.
Yeah,
There's
they
no
were,
way.
you had to
Right.
walk to get, it wasn't,
Loose. No.
yeah.
exactly.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Carlson, I have a question not related to the school budget.
Uh-oh.
Wow.
Just for our edification for something else that's occurring. When you hire somebody new, do you require direct deposit or do you still cut checks?
Oh, we require direct deposit.
Everyone hear that?
Direct.
I did.
We did.
Thank you.
We stopped that a while ago. It was,
Thank
it
you.
was way too challenging.
Thank you.
Do you
I figured, but thank you.
Yeah.
So when is your official last day and when is his official first day?
Well, my official last day is September 2nd, so it's my birthday. 'cause we have to go
Okay.
out on-
Oh, great.
I know.
Now we gotta buy him a birthday gift and
Yeah,
a go buy
it's,
gift.
it's like double. So, and Jim's official start, he's gonna have some days right before July 1, but his official one is July 1. So there's gonna be some overlap
Okay.
between us, which is good. So we had the opportunity to talk today already, and
Good.
it's gonna be good. We're really I'm looking forward to having the opportunity to work with him, and again, I think he just comes to the district with a broad knowledge. He's up in Leominster right now, serving as the HR director up there, assistant superintendent. And has done a lot of different things in his career, so it's going to be nice to have someone. Again, and I said this to Jim today. I said, there are benefits and drawbacks of being coming up through the ranks here, because you get a little insulated. So it's nice to have people from the outside. Like Jane will come in and be like, "Hey, Daryl, we can try something a little different." And I said, "I know, we've been doing it this way for 15 years." So I think Jim's going to bring the same kind of,
Good.
I'd say,
Fantastic.
new breath. So yeah.
Any other questions, guys?
I'm good.
I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
got one,
I
Leah?
have one.
Yeah, Leah's got one.
Leah Waitman, I'm a select board member, but I was curious with the healthcare increases, how the district tries to manage that and look forward. A 9% increase, I think, is not necessarily uncommon, but I know in town we try to manage that. I know Bay Path has been able to kind of manage a lower, less 0% increase or a more sustained increase to try to avoid the increased fluctuations.
Right. So we did have 2 years in a row where we were at 0% because our claims were very good. Our claims have not been great. Our large losses have been pretty high, and we're also again we have a PEC, so we don't control the health insurance. Our PEC does, and our PEC is comprised of our union members. So it's they're their own separate entity from the district, from even their own unions. So they're their own body. and they really have that ability to make those decisions. Now, we do our best to work with them around looking at ways that we can modify plan design and so forth, and which has been helpful, and we've been able to save a little funding here and there, but it was interesting, I was telling Jim today, when I came on like 8 years ago, we were 90-10, and we're now down to 78-22, which is, it saves us a lot of money every year. But again, it's hard for us to really control it in that sense. It's we have, we're not part of GIC, so we don't benefit from GIC, but we still have to follow the rules associated with GIC with the PEC.
But our claim numbers went way up this year.
Way up.
Way up.
And who is the PEC comprised of?
It's comprised of all the unions and our retirees in the district. So they all have a say in how everything kind of
Like
turns out.
in Rutland, we have the same, it's not called the PEC, but they make a recommendation and then the governing body comes down on it. You guys can't do that?
They are the governing body.
Yeah, they're it.
They're it.
Is that did we elect them to be able to do that, or is that
That's-
some government?
This is a long, Darren, like, we're gonna have to go out for coffee.
Okay,
Like, this is one that, it's just, years ago, the district went into GIC,
okay.
and when the district left the GIC,
This
didn't
was
do
the,
it. Yeah, so the group insurance, that's the state one. They went in, they saved $1 million. When they left the GIC and went back out, they didn't leave properly. And what happened was, when they didn't leave properly, the body that made the PEC, the Public Employee Committee, which is,
so this is what you're gonna do.
well, that body carried over. So we're the only district or community, I believe, in the state that's not part of GIC, doesn't get the benefit of GIC, but has a public employee committee that manages their health care. So
So-
it ties our hands. quite a bit.
And there's no way to get out of this right now.
They'd have to vote, the PEC would have to vote themselves out of it, correct, Jeff?
Yes.
Why would they?
Exactly. And we've asked them that many times, and they're, why would they? That's the, right.
Okay. I'm good.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank
you
you
coming.
all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we look
Appreciate
forward
it.
to seeing you next year.
Thank you. See you soon.
Yeah, see you Monday.
You know how you win us over?
I did.
Bring
I
cookies.
got
Write it down. Bring cookies.
We actually heard good.
Told me.
Hey, we actually heard
I
good things
have.
about him from Skip Nadeau.
Nice. Good, see?
And then if
He
you
come in here talking all good things about you. He must work with you.
Huge fan.
What's just minutes? I gotta go.
Yep, go ahead.
Thank you.
Probably I'm right behind.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
He's right behind me.
I got your back, Tom.
You're a good man.
Always got your back.
You're a good man. Tamika tells
I
me
have
all
my
the time.
moments.
Okay, so next on the agenda is the meeting minutes from March 30th and March 31st.
Alex wasn't here one of those meetings, so, but he's not here now.
Right, so it doesn't.
So let's just do March 30th and 31st approval as provided by Tamika up on the Google Drive.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? They're approved. Okay,
Tommy wants to go, and that's fine, because I'm gonna ask a question, and I don't know how we're gonna proceed, and I think it's a president for the committee. How, so if we have questions going forward, based on Lyndon's email, we will not, can the finance committee call Ron, or do you not want us to call him at all?
No.
Okay, so we're gonna direct our questions through you, or Carol. I saw that in email, so how are we gonna, I'm a little nervous
Why?
proceeding towards the town meeting.
Well, no, we're in the midst of putting in an interim administrator, hopefully within the week.
Okay, And you guys feel comfortable with that?
Yeah, I feel comfortable putting somebody else.
Okay, no, okay, no. All right.
Carol and I can't be doing it all.
Oh, no, well, that's where I'm going with this.
Why not?
Because we got
See, it's up.
Good
we
night.
got 3 or 4 positions that are key to this that are gonna be tough, right? So I'm nervous. Through the chair.
Mhm.
With the accountant, the secretary, or his executive secretary, and now an interim. Hopefully we can get some help for these guys somehow quickly, because we're into this little bit of a grind here coming up. I think we're in a good spot. It's
Yeah.
not like last year, but
Yeah. I guess the only question I would have, Tillman, through the chair, is would it be helpful to the select board if a member of the finance committee participated in any interviews or discussions?
You
Would
talking
they-
about the permanent replacement for the
Yeah.
town administrator? The board has not made a decision. More than likely, we'll probably use a service.
Okay,
There's been some discussion, but no final decision.
but you'll interview that,
The
those-
board, the board would interview the final
Right.
top.
And if, I don't know, I'm not gonna speak for the board, but if there was,
Their open meeting.
well, I know that,
Interviews.
but I don't wanna go, I can go, I don't wanna, inject myself into a conversation that they might be having with the candidate. I'd like to be able to ask some questions of the candidate. I don't know if that's the purview of somebody in the gallery, so to speak.
Well, I think we could worry about that at the end. We can find out.
Oh,
I'm not sure.
Right, no,
I'm not sure.
The
Once they
board
make the
hasn't made a
decision.
decision on
Right.
exactly what direction we'll take as far as filling the position.
Okay.
We're leaning towards more of a professional. The last one was just made up of a group of people that we're not leaning towards going that way this time.
Okay,
Do you mind if I just,
No, go ahead.
just historical knowledge? Previously, the town had used 2 different search committees or search firms to bring finalists before the board.
Yep.
I think the first was the Collins Center, and that's how the town went into the hiring Margaret as a town
Mhm.
administrator. And then the other one was Community Paradigm, and that's how we ended up hiring Mike Nicholson. So I think historically, it's an N of 3, right? So there's not a whole lot of history there, but
okay.
that's how the 3 full-time administrators have been determined or found, I guess.
Okay.
so the next question, barring up to this whole, how are we gonna pay for both of these in our existing budget that's pretty tight right now, Miss Karen?
I figure they have to first figure out who they're hiring, how they're hiring, and then we can talk about
I'm
that.
already talking with Dan.
Okay. All right, and you got a plan?
Okay.
I'm sure you do, but I'm just saying,
Bake sale,
I vote for lottery tickets.
lottery tickets.
we're gonna pay for 2 people. Big sale of lottery tickets, so we don't have money to, about
I'll buy the ticket.
about $10,000 a month, we don't have enough money to do it without pennies,
I know.
so. It's coming from somewhere, big sale of lottery tickets,
Well, I mean, you're right, it is.
For how long are we paying?
we're paying one till September,
Right.
Yeah, till permanent person.
and then the permanent
Which is
one's gonna be
budgeted
double, which is budgeted for right now. But then we're gonna have a second one as soon, we're gonna have an interim,
Right,
which is
So we're gonna
somewhere,
pick some cost up in this year through June 30th. And then
Probably
we'll have a period,
8
July
to 10
1 to
grand a
September
month or
30th.
something,
Right.
you know.
and then
I'm just a little, we just gotta think about it, right? Because there's gonna be a way we gotta come up with this money. We're gonna have to do it.
And with as tight as we budget, the reserve fund goes fast.
right,
Well,
Gone.
I know, that's what I'm saying, but that's what I'm saying, and we really haven't changed that, so
and it may be free cash, which is the wrong way to do it, but it's a one-time thing. Where I'm going with this is leading down this trail is, I'm having trouble getting there, but if we paid an interim or time with 2 of them with free cash, I would think that would be all right, because as much as I hate to pay for salaries, it's a one-time salary.
It's not reoccurring, it's one time.
And that's where I'm going with this, because as much as we all hate to say the word free cash spending on salaries, we may have to do this with free cash.
Well,
And
it's a
other
one-time expense, it's not a continuous.
Correct. And then, but other things, if we do this based on what the salaries they all agree on,
Right,
thwe are not gonna happen.
right.
I
Other
can say, we hope it's a one-time expense.
Right, yeah, right. But you know where I'm going with this? If we got $30,000 or $40,000 to the end of this financial year, and then we go into the next one for a little bit, or however it works out,
However it works out.
things are not gonna. People are not gonna get some of the things they want on free cash, because we have to.
Well-
This is a problem that we have to deal with.
Right, this was not expected, it's something that occurred. It's just like any other emergency that comes up, we deal with it in the way that we do, and then we'll start again next
I
year.
guess the long and the short of it is just everybody keep in mind free cash is probably going to be our only way out of this,
Right.
but something is going to suffer along the way if we pay for this stuff with free cash.
Right, okay. Good point.
Did everyone receive the email that I forwarded, or that Becky sent to all of us regarding the payroll service?
Yes.
Yes.
And the health insurance?
Yes,
Just wanna make sure everybody got it.
so
I-
what's the decision on the health benefits? Is that
We're gonna
gonna
wait
go
till
into
next year.
next year?
Wait till
Well,
next year.
that's what I know she recommended.
that's up to the select board to make that decision. I just wanna
Okay.
make sure everybody saw the email, cause I wanna make sure everyone got it.
But I think that part of that discussion is if it's $4,000, right? Is it worth fighting the fight for $4,000 right now? With that, I thought her number was 43 or 30. When she said that we would only save X amount.
Okay.
Well, speak.
I didn't commit the numbers to memory today.
What?
I was in meetings from 11 o'clock
You
till
put
2.
your job about this?
Yes. So I didn't commit the numbers. I just want to make sure everybody got it. Tomorrow we have recreation, safe place, and Tamika will be giving the presentation for the ZBA.
Very good.
Are you gonna be taking notes on yourself?
I know, right? I feel like double duty.
Don't, I said.
And then they said,
Does anybody have anything else to discuss?
I don't think so.
yeah, Darren?
Motion to adjourn, please.
Second.
Jeez.
All in favor?
Jeez.
Aye. Okay, we're all set. Thank you very much, guys.